Welcome everyone to my channel. Today I present to you the fifth of several backstories based on the camping nightmare Lost in the Woods. The story I wrote that featured Cyrus the Bigfoot. These stories will round out what you know about Cyrus' life from the perspective of each character and add depth to him. There's so much we don't know about these creatures in real life, so this series is intended to let our imagination see things from their perspective, and just maybe, how they might perceive life and our world we share. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell notification, share, and give this a thumbs up. Please enjoy Pasha, the Untold story, as we get right into it. My name is Pasha. I am Cyrus' mate. I know you don't know much about me, but I will fill in the gaps. I've been through many things in my young life, so I understand a lot of what Cyrus feels and how he thinks. My family lived in the forest of rain near the great water where the sun leaves the sky. My father was a respected older male there that used to be a gatherer. Life was good for all of us. One day, while I was just a few moons old, my father went out to gather for the family groups. He noticed humans in the distance. They appeared to be lost, but moved around very quietly. He didn't see any of their metal weapons on them, so he went in for a closer look. One of the humans put food and colored rocks on a broken tree stump and then left. Now, in the past, humans have done this before with us many times, and the law of the forest doesn't tell us that we can't eat the food or take whatever they leave. It does say that we must return gift for gift, so my father ate the food and took the colored rocks to bring back to me to play with. One thing my father loved to do is bend sticks. He was very good at it, and even made flat stick surfaces for us to eat our food on. So he made a small one and left it there for the humans. He was not supposed to let himself be seen or talk to them, but a gift was okay. We don't like to have contact with humans because of how unpredictable they are and violent they can be. Well, several moons later, Father returned back to that spot and found more food. But this time he smelled something strange. He looked around and found a little human box that was tied to a tree. It smelled like old fruit, and it had a tiny light on it. Our older ones would tell us that these little human boxes have tiny humans in them that watch the forest. The larger humans would come in the forest and tie them to trees, and when anything walks past its eye, it calls out to the larger humans, and they come back and take it away and tie it to another tree. We are supposed to stay far away from them. Once Father realized what it was, he ripped it off the tree and hid it. He was so nervous. He came back as soon as he could and told my mother, Plina, what happened. She told him he needed to bathe before the other older males smelled the scent of the old fruit and human that was on him from the little human box. He rushed out and immediately ran down to the river and rubbed water on himself. It wasn't enough. He came back, and very quickly one of the older males smelled him. Thankfully, he pulled him aside and asked what happened. Father told him, and he said Father did good by burying it to keep us safe. Unfortunately, our safety was short-lived. A few moons later, when I was only 12 moons old, a couple of older males and a couple of females separately reported back to our leaders that there were suddenly many of these little human boxes tied to trees everywhere. Father was immediately concerned. He went back to the place he buried the one he took off of a tree, and it wasn't there anymore. Just a hole and several human footprints. He was so upset at himself. He knew he should have just ended the human box instead of burying it. He looked back at the tree stump, and there were gifts again. This time he looked around carefully and spotted 3 of these little human boxes just in that area. He stealthily ran back to our dwelling and told the other males what he found. They had already met together at the meeting tree, and with the information from the older male my father talked to, concluded that father put our whole territory at risk and then hid it from us till it was too late. He and our family would be banished to protect all the rest. I didn't fully understand yet what was happening, but Mother was very upset. So 3 moons later, we had to leave and make the very long journey to the mountain of banishment. Our journey there was very hard. Not only did he have to deal with other animals, some of which did not like us, there was the constant threat of humans and a lack of food and water. Father and Mother had to be resourceful. On our way through the mountain of rocks, we came across 2 snow dwellers who were out foraging all the way down here. They are more aggressive than us forest dwellers and think of us as too friendly to humans. One of them looked as if he were fond of my mother. Father immediately told them she was his mate and I was his offspring. They didn't seem to care. Father told them that they were too far into the forest and needed to return from where they came. One of them challenged Father and said they will never listen to a forest dweller. He charged Father and they fought. It was very intense. My father was no weak male. He held his own very well until the second male joined in. Father couldn't handle both of them. One of the snow dwellers was badly injured, and Father was ended. It was devastating for us. The other snow dweller that seemed fond of my mother approached her and said she couldn't raise me on her own, and he took us back to his dwelling land several moons away in the snow region. He took my mother as his mate. We were there for around 200 moons. He was not nice and treated me badly, and my mother tried to protect me as much as she could. When their territory leader returned and discovered what happened, everything changed. He immediately punished the male for what he had done and banished us from ever returning there because forest dwellers are not allowed to live there. He and Mother were no longer mates. 2 females and a male immediately took us and led us away back down to the forested areas. We didn't know what happened to the male that did what he did, but one of the females said that he would be punished for breaking the snow dwellers' laws and the law of the forests. They were a more brutal type of our species and had worse tempers than most of us. We could only imagine what that punishment was. Now we are back where we were, but this time alone. Mother was a strong female, so I was never worried about being safe. As we were continuing to the mountain of banishment, we were cornered one night by a large brown bear. They are very aggressive and do not like our species. Vast majority of them do leave us alone because our males are very formidable. But we were just a female and a young one. He may have seen me as an easy target. He and Mother fought. I guess what they say about motherly instincts is true. She became much more aggressive than the brown bear was, and she injured him badly and very quickly. It was almost as if he never saw it coming. Mother was not even hurt. The brown bear limped away as soon as he could. My mother was determined to keep us alive. It took us about 20 moons to get to the mountain of banishment. When we arrived, Mother discovered that she was going to have a young one. She was so worried because he would be different from nearly everyone else of our species. He would be part snow dweller and part forest dweller. Both, but neither. She was determined to make the best of it, and I was old enough to help her as well. There were others of our species that were there, but there was almost no structure, and most went about on their own. There were so many rogue animals here. One particular that you have heard about was an evil bear named Kelkar. He did not like any of our species, and he let everyone know about it. While my mother was giving birth, he paid us a visit with a couple of other rogue bears. We were in a small den that we found and made into our home, and Mother nested there. After what happened with the snow dwellers, Mother was worried about our safety more than normal. We had gathered some fallen trees together and made them into a door that we could tie closed from inside. So that's what I did. I shut the door and I tied it closed. They came and tried to crush the door open and pry it open, but they couldn't. He yelled out that he would be back, and we couldn't hide forever. Before the sun left the sky, my brother was born. Mother named him Danik, after my father. He did look a little different from our species, so Mother was concerned. The last thing she wanted was for him to be hated for being different. Right from the beginning, she taught him to be okay with not being the same as everyone else. He was unique, and he could embrace that about himself. It was clear, though, that Kelkar intended to make good on his threat. About 50 moons after Danik was born, we were out picking berries and catching some fish. Kelkar came out of nowhere from behind and yelled out that the offspring was his. I put Danik behind me and told Kelkar that he had to go through me first. I guess I am more like my mother than I thought. He charged, and so I picked up a river rock and hit him full force with it. I cut him right in the face, and he took a few steps back because I hit him so hard. My mother came to the tree line and stared at Kelkar. He just snorted and said that he wasn't finished with us yet. He walked away slowly as Mother came running and grabbed Danik and me. She felt she should have ended him because he was a threat to little Danik. But she just didn't. She knew we would not be safe for now. We moved dens a little farther away, and she made the same door for us to hide if needed. Everything was quiet for many moons. That is, until one day, while I was out, I saw an injured male of our species, whom I had never seen before. His name was Cyrus. I brought him back to the den, and Mother allowed him to stay with us and recover. We tended his wounds in the meantime. As we got to know him and found out his story, he became quite beloved to my mother and Danik. I, on the other hand, had no use for him. I was not interested at all. A little time passed, and he tried to make friends with me, but I wouldn't let him get close. He, on the other hand, was interested in me and was quite persistent. Things changed, though, after he risked his life to get me certain berries that I love and my favorite flowers. He remembered it from when I mentioned it shortly after meeting him. He was kind, thoughtful, and strong. After I softened my heart, it didn't take long for me to fall in love with him. We became mates soon after. We have been through many events together over these many moons, as Cyrus has told you about. I know there will be many more to come. I will go now, because Cyrus must prepare himself for another dangerous threat that only he can fix.